Hi everyone, it's Killshot from 99 Gaming. This is Fear the Walking Dead live reactions, and I've seen some of the comments already, and we're going to pick a few things with tonight's episode. At first glance, I had some concerns, but the more I thought about it, there were several different things that really played out tonight that I think are going to create some live discussions to get all of you guys a little bit worked up here. I know a couple people said it was very predictable the way the walkers were released on the stadium, but remember, this is something that we talked about. It's not something, when you do predictions week in and week out, there are going to be some things that are said in here that makes it look a little bit more obvious. However, there were some things they did tonight that I don't think we were fully on board. Now, we said that there was going to be fire, and we said there was going to be walkers, but we didn't really catch that they were going to soak the walkers in oil, and then the walkers are going to walk through the fire to do the job for them. So I did like that piece of it. It did have, I got to be honest, it did bring back a little bit of that bad decision-making Madison, and I'm okay with it because I don't think she's going to be there very much longer. I just got to be honest with you guys. The whole, the things that I didn't like in Season 3, there was a hint of it tonight, but then I think that it kind of went away really quick because of the time shift back and forth, so we'll talk about that. Let me get to this super chat. Appreciate all you guys being here. EpicVids8 says, frustrated with Madison's stubborn decision to stay inside instead of leaving the stadium. I now hope she's dead. I think she dies next episode. I am right there with you, Epic. I have to be honest, I like the show much, much more when Madison is not protective mom. And multiple times during this episode, she did it. I think the show needs to develop the other characters. I think that other things need to happen because we've seen this song and dance so many times. Even with the stadium, she says, I built this for my kids. I need a place for the kids to stay. And then she rehashed that. And then, the walkie-talkie thing, I think, between Alicia and Madison, I think is going to make Madison definitely go full beast mode. And hopefully, from a story standpoint, I hope Madison goes out there and tries to save her kids and lays her life on the line for that. I think that's what's going to go down as well. But you never know. Now, how quickly Mel is going to recover and how that's going to play out is going to be something that is, I guess, remains to be seen as well. Because Mel doesn't look like he's in too good of shape. But Enos is still around the corner. I guess Enos doesn't know that they're in the car. There's going to have to be some kind of rescue, and then Nick and Alicia are going to have to get away. But you can see why the frustration, I think, with Nick and Alicia, because they actually saw it happening sort of firsthand. Jimmy's Jammin' says, upset and pissed off, filler, ugh, arg, really disappointing. So, let's, Jimmy, what we'll do is we're going to focus in on yours and make that our Super Chat spotlight. So, I want you guys, just before we get too far into the raw reactions, you guys know we'll do the complete recap tomorrow. But from a scale of 1 to a 10, tonight's episode, leave your score. I just want to see, and we'll justify some of those scores in a little bit. I have a feeling they're not going to be as high as normal. At least for me, and I'll give you mine once I see a few of the scores. So, Jimmy, we're going to see what people think. Epic's coming out 4. Steph is saying 6, 7, 5. Big E is saying 9. That's the highest score of the night. 5, 8.5 by Rowdy. 4, 5, 8, 7, 5, 8. Was about to go. Sounded like a song, right? 8, 7, 6, 4. Hippo says an 8. Dwayne Sharp coming out with a 9. Negan gives it a 10. Kel 6.5. Yeah, we're all over the place. 8, 6, 7, 5, 309. Questions keep piling up. Well, we did say that, right, in the countdown, that there may be more questions than answers tonight. Julia Drums coming out with a 10. Jake 6.16. BK Harp 9.5. So I just want to kind of get a feel, and this will be part of the video. So here it is. I'm giving it a 7. And I'm going to tell you why I'm giving it a 7. One, I was expecting it to be a little better. I guess they're holding off for the big drama with Madison next week. I would have preferred it just happen this week. And it just seems like a little shorter episode tonight. As far as the things that really stuck out is I thought the Scrabble can I thought was cute. I know some of you guys have talked about that before. We did bring some closure to the fact that Naomi is not related in any way to Charlie or to Mel. So we've seen by the dialogue they are complete strangers. But I think the dynamic that bothered me was Nick. And here's the problem, okay? Very inconsistent. And I don't want to talk anybody down and give you a lower score. So my reaction tonight was really centered around how inconsistent the people's actions were. So Charlie goes, knocks on the door because Mel's hurt. Freak accident, guess it happens. But Madison wants to help Mel. Nick does not want to help Mel, okay? But then when they get back to the stadium, Madison wants to let Mel go and die. Nick doesn't want to send Mel out to his death. So they completely flip-flop in such a short period of time. This bothered me. This bothered me a lot. To an extreme where Charlie, who has already betrayed them once, is upset because Mel's gone. And Nick and Alicia decide, after all this work has went on securing the wall, Nick and Alicia decide, take it down, we got to leave to go find Mel. If you take that out of it, I might give it a little bit better score. But that's bad writing. That's bad writing. I'm sorry. There's so many other things they could have done with that. That's why I gave it a 7. All right, I'll get back to that in 1 second. Let me get to Super Chat. We got Jake from State Farm at 3 a.m. says, where's Daniel? I want answers. He could be bringing a lot to the show right now. I don't have the answer to that question. They're going to have to meet up with somebody at some point, though. Maybe another reunion with Daniel, another reunion with Proctor John. Jake, we're going to have to super chat that question probably in a couple of weeks after the mid-season finale. But thank you for that question. Epic Vids 8 says, the whole episode, the characters' motivations and decisions were terrible. Why would Madison help Mel and then kick him out? Why would Alicia and Nick go out and help him? He is the enemy. Let him die. I could not agree more. In fact, that's what I was saying as he was. What's funny is I think this is the second or third time that Epic Vids has been typing something, and I've been talking about it almost the exact same moment. Hilarious. So I think me and Epic are starting to see the show in a very similar fashion. But you can see that emotion, right? All right, so this is what we do in every reaction video. And for one, look, we got a ton of people here. If you guys could all do me a favor, 999 Army, everybody slap that like button. Like the show. Even if you dislike the episode, still hit the like button and show some support for the team here. We'd greatly appreciate that. Because we're going to break it down. We're going to break down some things. And while you guys are hitting the like button, I'm going to ask a question. Because we do this every reaction video. What was the most shocking part of this episode? So if you had to pick one thing and you had to react to it and it was just like your aha moment, what was that moment for you tonight? And I'm going to read a few of the comments. Walking Dead Nerd, it's not just Madison. A lot of people on the show, the characters do have a weakness for Charlie. I mean, they see that as, like, they don't want to disappoint the kids. They don't want them to go through that. Mel obviously has the connection with Charlie. Madison has a connection with Charlie. Nick and Alicia go back out there because of Charlie. A lot going on. Valerie Feldman says burning the stadium. Fluff says Mel being so concerned about Charlie. Lark says the way Alicia killed Mel. Yeah, well, Alicia was willing to help him once, but she definitely wasn't willing to help him the second time. I guess I can deal with a little bit of bad writing if it's going to finally make these characters go off on their own. If Madison is gone and I don't have to deal with like the next town they go to and she builds it up for her kids, so that story needs to end. And I chose this picture of Alicia because I think that is the incensed, crazy mode Alicia that I need to see in the future. So hopefully all this stuff that's happened in the past will formulate and just make her into a much, much stronger lead character on the show. Dwayne Sharp says Nick and Alicia trying to save Mel, whose people are threatening to burn the stadium. So here it is. This is what I would have done. Mel is there, right? And this is what the writers should have done. Instead of this, release him, give him some food. Wait, all right, here's the problem that I have. And then I'm going to tell you what I would have done. You gave him some of your supplies. You still don't have enough rations. You gave him one of the cars. And he was sitting out there stealing all your food. But yet, you just gave him the Range Rover. And I'm going to read Jimmy's Jam, and I'm going to get back to the way I would have wrote this a little bit differently. So, the main idea of the show, to me, and this may just be me, I wanted to focus on how Madison raised her children to do what is right. Maybe, Jimmy, I'm not... I can see that, but the problem that I have with that, if the writers did that, and I get it, they did that in season 1, 2, and 3, and I was looking for something a little different. It's like when you watch The Walking Dead, and we're kind of stuck in some degree by people saying that, well, the show is through Rick's eyes. Well, it was. And it's because the writers probably did that for far too long instead of branching it out, and now it's going to be a lot harder. Well, probably the same thing. It's always been about Madison finding her kids and protecting her kids and creating a life. I understand that. But at some point, it has to break off into something that is not old school. So I agree with you. I just wished it wasn't so much of that. Epic Vids says, felt like Randall from The Walking Dead Season 2 all over again. Another super chat. Sergeant Chosen One, with Madison's bad decision-making and Alicia and Nick wanting to rescue Mel, my revised score is 8 out of 10. Not a solid 8, but an 8 nonetheless. So we're kind of getting that. But now, I'm going to ask some of you that gave it a 6, a 7, 7.5 to think about your score. And I'm going to give you a way that I would have done it. And then I want you to rate based on just this little minor substitution. If you think it's lower, score it low. If you think it's higher, score it higher. So what I would have done, I would have punched Mel a couple of times and said, is this the first time you've loaded up walkers and destroyed people's lives? And then I would have punched him a couple times more, probably 4 times, maybe 6, probably 10. And then after that, he would have given me some information and said, no, this is what we do. Then I would have taken Mel and I would have put him, up on that area where they're all looking down. I would have tied him up to that and I would have put a spotlight right on him. So that way when Enos drives up, I'd say, hey, see your brother right here? Now you go ahead and let those walkers do whatever you want to do, but he's in here with us. If you want him back, then you're going to leave those trucks and we'll take care of those. And we'll meet you at a designated point. Then you can have him back. If not, I would cut that rope and I would throw Mel down so the walkers eat him first. And then I would tell everybody else in the stadium, run out the back door. All right, now rate Fear the Walking Dead based on that scenario. If we would have taken this whole little, Mel and Charlie were in the truck and they hit a walker and Mel got some bruised ribs because he couldn't dodge one walker on the street. Should have been wearing a seatbelt, but he wasn't. Then they take him back. He infiltrates. There you go. See, now, one little minor modification, and it still would have worked. Whatever. This dude gave me a 5. Get out of here. I'm telling you, with Mel, Beth gave it a 10 and then a 2 based on, Beth, I'm sorry. It's so unrealistic that you keep giving these people another chance. They're vultures. They were out eating hot dogs while your people were starving. They were listening to the radio and stealing your food. But yet, the bad decision making on Madison's part has got to go away. Epic Vid says, Kills just came up with a better episode. 8 out of 10. You know what? I'll take an 8 out of 10. But I do think there's good stuff with John. He's going to survive. He's going to make it. They're going to get back into the stadium. There needs to be a real aha moment next week. There needs to be something to make this episode worthwhile. Lakeisha says, hi everyone, better, but the story is just dragging. I do have to say that there needs to be some closure to this next week. And I do think if Madison leaves the show, it'll make up for a lot. There is zero chance Madison can survive this. And I think most people, you have to see the writing on the wall. I mean, you see the frustration with Alicia. You see the frustration with Nick. Mel did survive the explosion. Did not survive Alicia's wrath. Good point, Chris. He did offer to share his hot dogs, after pointing out that they had none and all they had was condiments. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to something that really, we started talking about 3 weeks ago and it really stuck out to me. This is why I rated the show even a 7 tonight, even though I was disappointed in it. Because I do like the fact that there's no heroes and no villains. That there's a lot of gray area and a lot of misunderstandings in the show this year. Whereas, like with Rick's group, it was pretty clear for a while. At least, and Rick's group did some bad stuff. But you could be on one side or the other. You were like, Negan was bad, Rick was good. Even though if you are a Negan fan or you're a Saviors fan, you could see it differently. Most of the audience, 85-90%, was Team Rick. The one thing about what they're doing here is we do think that Mel and Enos had pulled this trick before, but what if they hadn't? We make that assumption, once again, because You got all these numbers on signs, and we need an enemy. But let's just say we don't have any proof of that. Mel has an attachment and a obligation to take care of Charlie. So you see the human side of him as well. So even though we see the bad in people, there's good in the bad people. So I think that part of it is what has intrigued me so much about Fear the Walking Dead this season, and I give the writers a ton of props to go in that direction. But if I'm completely honest with the group, and I love doing reaction videos, and I love doing these things when I'm just like super excited. It's like, yes, that was awesome, the way they did that. And last week was pretty good, or 2 weeks ago was pretty good. The inconsistencies with Madison, Nick, and Alicia tonight deserve to get someone killed. They made bad decisions. And you make bad decisions in a zombie apocalypse, you usually don't live to tell about it. So Epic Vid says, I like the new characters like John and Althea. I can't stand the old characters like Alicia, Madison, Strand. Hope they die. Honestly, you know what? I want to focus on that for 1 minute. I'm going to ask everybody to reply to Epic Vids. I do. John and Althea, the same. Madison, I'm done with her. Alicia and Strand, I could deal with a little bit of change. E-Beach says, not Strand, favorite character. So if you guys just give a response to that super chat. Ron Burgundy says just Madison. Drama King says Alicia will be the lead. I think we saw something in Alicia tonight with blowing up the ambulance and then walking over and making sure Mel was done. I'm hoping that is a turning point going forward. That is exactly who she is. That she is Daryl. That she is Abraham. That she is Rosita. That she is no nonsense and I will shoot you. Because I need that character. Nick was not that character. He was back and forth. He could have been for a while, but then he just lost it, and they had to write him off the show. I understand that because he wanted to leave the show. Madison looked like she could have been this season, but nope. Hey, you know what? I would love to see Alicia as Magna, but we'll see. I mean, we got a lot of untold story, I guess, in Texas as well. One thing that is kind of neat, we do so many predictions that it's easy to forget when we do the bad ones, right? Because eventually you're going to get one right. So last week, just a couple of the really epic things that we talked about. And you don't have to answer. You know which side you're on. We'll talk about it earlier this week. But one of the big topic conversations was Naomi's interaction with Mel. So just think back over it. If you predicted that Mel and Naomi were brother and sister, wrong. Or if Charlie and Naomi, and I started buying into that one too. I didn't feel it in the beginning, but the more we talked about it, I was like, that's a possibility. So we were way off on that one as well. But surprisingly, everybody has a soft spot for Charlie. Beth says, killing Madison is so predictable that I'm sure she is alive. When we do the complete recap tomorrow night, we'll definitely touch on that. Beth, I feel like it's so predictable, but it also, at this point, it has to be done. I think all the things that the other characters are doing just pretty much state that it's almost like the walkers being released on the stadium was pretty predictable too, and it was done. I I think Madison has to die saving her children. I just think the writing is on the wall that anything other than that would be more shocking. Tina Jordan says, Charlie needs to cross over and meet Carol. Absolutely. Carol can bake her some cookies while she's looking at the flowers. So Sergeant Chosen One says, Kills, do you think Madison is dead? Yes or no? All right, I'm gonna say it. Madison dies next week. I'm predicting it. I know it's not a super obvious thing, so I'm going to ask you right now. You guys chime in. Madison gone next week, yes or no? The show goes on without her. I think Madison is going to find a way to save Mel, Alicia, and Nick. It's about 50-50. Bumblebee says gone. Ron Burgundy says no. Beth says no. Brene says gone. Jimmy's Jammin' says no. Big E says gone. So it looks like we're about 50-50. So it will, it'll be shocking for 50% of the group. Drama King says this season proved that we can live without Madison. No fake deaths. So, I'm going to get to that 1 second because I do want to talk about Charlie. Epic Vid says almost no one likes Madison any way she can go. Let's that's another one. I think a good survey. How many people have an emotional attachment to Madison and would like for her to stay on the show? Because then I'm going to have a follow-up. It's going to be a real simple follow-up. It's going to be, why? What is it about Madison at this point that is not repetitive? All right, there's a few. I like the actor. I think Kim is fine. I just don't like the character they wrote out. All right. Yeah, I mean, personal taste. I liked her, I think, the first season. And I wish the writers would have done her a little bit more justice. And I really thought at the beginning of the season that Madison was going to do a whole lot more killing and a whole lot more. She's going to do things a little bit differently. All right, another super chat I want to jump into. So this is John Brody says, I hope they introduce the Whispers. Be the bad guys. John, that's a possibility. I mean, maybe they take one of these major storylines off The Walking Dead, the Commonwealth or the Whispers, and then roll them over to Fear. Because the second half of the season, there's going to have to be more vultures somewhere. Lamar says, I just can't get Madison no matter how I try. I think I gave her due diligence. I think 3 years was due diligence. So Epic says, Super Chat, the show thrives with John and dies with Madison. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say her acting is bad, Lamar. I think she plays the role the way they initially wrote the role. I just wanted the role to be different. That's all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Epic Vid's super chat with the show thriving with John and dying with Madison, and I'm going to say, let's just say next week, Madison dies. You guys take me through the story the second half of the season. So let's say it's a sad farewell and she's gone. We actually see what happens at the stadium. We see the finality. And Naomi saves John. They're at the stadium. What is in store for the second half of the season? A different enemy. They pack up. They're on the road. More vultures. What do you think? Jimmy says, Madison's a badass and should get revenge for Nick. Well, I mean, Jimmy, the problem is that revenge would be against Charlie. And it looks like other people have already forgiven her. I haven't. Julia says Alicia debates on what is wrong or right and killing Naomi possibility. Beth says Althea's real identity will be revealed. Possibly Althea is part of a bigger group. Young EB says Proctor John. See, that's what I like, Nether Fox. I like the fact that Althea could be involved in something big. Villar says new groups will know what's going on with those tapes. More enemies. All right, and as a reminder, we will do the complete recap tomorrow night. We're going to get a couple more reactions and wind us down. Epic Vid says, Alicia will not forgive Charlie, neither will Lucy. So I'm going to ask the group, how many people in this group forgive Charlie? Now that we know exactly what Enos did. Because remember, we didn't know that Enos was the one that released the walkers when we saw Nick and Enos fight. So Charlie saw Nick kill Enos, and then Charlie shot Nick. But not knowing what we knew, we didn't give her a pass, but we just kind of took a step back and said, let's just wait and reassess the situation. Yeah, I don't think nobody here is a fan of Charlie. So we can't forgive her, right? All right, so follow-up question. Can we forgive people like Mel or like Enos? Do you know how diabolical it is to load up 500 walkers or so, maybe more, maybe 1,000 walkers, and unleash those. Should you give anybody a free pass that wants to unleash 1,000 walkers on you and let them devour you and tear down everything that you built up? This is such a loaded question. Beth in all caps, no. I love it. Nope. Ella says, hell no. Okay. All right. Now, here's the problem. So, none of us here would forgive Charlie. None of us here would give anybody a small shadow of a doubt if they were loading up walkers and releasing them. So, why on earth would Nick and Alicia care about Mel when Mel is an accomplice to loading up all those walkers and releasing them? That's the part that blew my mind tonight. That's the part that frustrates me. So we wouldn't do it, but yet Nick and Alicia did it. So what is wrong with their characters? Now, I understand at this point Charlie had not killed Nick. So we can't use that as validation. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking mainly about the second question. Is you've got a guy there and you know he's already admitted of what they're going to do. But yet, you go out there to try to save him? His life is worth something when he spent the last couple months rounding up walkers so he can unleash them and devour all of your people? So, honestly, and I would be a tough critic, that's where I want to sit down. I want to be front row with Scott Gimple and raise my hand and say, just excuse me, I just have one question. What were Nick and Alicia thinking? So, Big E Gorham says, Nick and Alicia blast some AC/DC and drive away. I think they're going to have to watch Madison die. I don't think they're going to drive away. The radio from Alicia to Madison and the look on Madison's face of open the gate, that's the writing on the wall. When they do stuff like that, they're preparing us for next week. Now, don't get this twisted. I love what they've done this season. Even when they do stuff like this, we're going to talk about the show. I think the show, the second half, is going to be a nice springboard. I do agree. I think the development of the other characters is going to be fine. You know, writers can have some of these lapses. There's one other thing that I'll point out 1 second. Get to Epic Vid Super Chat. Think about this. Nick and Alicia leave to help Mel when an attack is imminent from Mel's group. Great point. I guess, they thought they could get him. And why'd it have to be Alicia and Nick? I mean, why couldn't it have been some of the B characters? Douglas would have been the one to go. They could have drew straws and sent Douglas. It wouldn't have mattered anything happened to him. But now we do know that Nick and Alicia make it. So I'm going to throw this out to the group as well. Some people think Madison will save Nick and Alicia. There are people that don't think Madison will die next week. So I'm going to throw this question out to everybody. How will Nick, Alicia, and Mel survive? And it can't just be Enos because Enos might get Mel and Charlie because they meet back up, and Naomi. So Naomi probably gets Charlie and saves Mel. But then Nick and Alicia have to go a different way because that's where the groups were today. So it looks like Naomi's going to be the one to help. So let me also point this out. This is the small little bit of saving grace. Now, if Madison would not have agreed to take Mel back, they wouldn't know about the Walker situation. So I guess you could look at it that way, that Madison helping actually briefly helped the group, but she didn't do anything with that knowledge. That's the problem. It's like you got a wounded leader right there, and you know an attack is imminent, but you don't do anything with that data. Her failure to, where she got stubborn and said, I'm just going to, tear down this wood and reinforce the walls. That's where it should have been. She should have been able to do something more. She did. Ron says she tried to reinforce the walls. But where was her help? Where was everybody else at while she was out there tearing down Naomi's room? All right, I'm going to add one more thing to it. This is minor, but I have to do it because this is my reaction. If you guys want, I would have probably ended the show tonight, though. I would have ended the threat. You've got the high ground, and Madison has been bragging about all the weapons that they have. And Enos prances out of the truck and starts releasing walkers. I don't know. Is it just me? Did anybody else want Madison's group just to snipe everybody? Look, why are you still being nice to these people? They are unloading, they're offloading walkers, and they're walking around. Could they not start shooting? And you don't even have to wait for him to open up the gate. You knew what he was there for. So as soon as Enos got out, I would have shot like 50 times at him. So they're waiting on the threat to come. And when the all right, I got to stop because I'm going to pick it apart. We'll do this tomorrow night. But when the truck had the oil, I knew it was oil. I knew it was something flammable, but they didn't. So Madison didn't know that either. I would expect at least one person, when they see this truck and it's leaking oil on the way out or gas or whatever it is. You know what it is because it's coming out of there. I would expect at least one person up there and saying, damn, that's oil. We need to do something. But they didn't. They were on the radio. It's like, what are they doing? We don't know. I guess it's an ice cream truck. Maybe they thought it was like melted ice cream. But we're going to wind it down. I'm going to have too much fun with this. So let me say this. This is probably the John episode with Naomi was my least favorite before tonight. This is my least favorite of the 7. I still think if I had to rate the overall season, 7 episodes, I'm going to say 8.5, upper 8s, maybe almost a 9. I'm very entertained by it, but it doesn't mean that, we're not going to find some things. Tomorrow night, we'll probably go a little bit more in detail. We'll go scene by scene and give everybody a chance to really get worked up. I'm a little disappointed because I was hyped up. I think some of that disappointment is in the fact that we sort of knew that this was going to go down because we predicted it. Maybe somebody that hasn't been talking about it for 2 or 3 weeks, they might have been, that makes sense. But because they drug it out so long, they gave us plenty of time to really piece it together. Okay, well, they're like a circus, and they got all these signs, and that means how many walkers they have. So, yeah, it was a pretty easy one for us. Hey, I want to thank everybody for being here. You guys are awesome. Very interactive, very entertaining stream tonight. A lot of good comments. So we'll come up with some good solutions of what we could have done a little bit differently in tomorrow night's episode. So join us tomorrow night at 9:30. We will do the complete recap. On Tuesday night, we're going to be back to random things. Wednesday night, we'll do our bold predictions. So there'll be a lot of Fear the Walking Dead chat. It's going to come up. It's going to be a big mid-season finale. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Give me a quick 999 in chat right now because I'm going to do some shout-outs as we are winding down. If you're watching the playback, this is the closing credits. If you're still here, I want to do some shout-outs. And also, once this video goes live, 10 or 15 minutes, make sure that you leave some comments on that video. We'll use it in future videos. And also, leave comments to each other's comments, things that you liked about the show, things that you liked or disliked about the broadcast, and also 999 Army. Everybody hit that like button. I'll see you all tomorrow at 9:30. I want to say thank you to Ellis Roy, Tommy V, Michelle M, Sam B, Tanya Dockstader, Sergeant Chosen One, Chukala, Big E Gorham, The Walking Dead Nerd, eBeat72, Walani, John Brody, Cammy, Gina Crockett. Thank you also to Patreons, sponsors, the moderators, and also Gina Crockett, our newest patron. You can see we've added her name up on the top. Thank you so much. Appreciate you helping out the 909 channel, sponsors, and also each moderator, Emmy, Steph, Tommy, Kells. Who else we got here? We've got Julia Drums. Thank you so much. We'll see you. Mitch True, Jimmy's Jammin', Lakeisha Faison, Tina Jordan, thank you so much. A blast hanging out with you guys. Rial, Ron Burgundy. Epic Vids with a super chat says, I would be okay with Madison staying at the stadium if she kept Mel as a hostage. I would have too. I would have just found a way to use him as leverage. There's no doubt. Valar, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Liz Burnett. Bumblebee Brown, thank you. Diane Estes. BK Harp, thank you. Lamar Lanham. Drama King, New York City. Yep, we're going to talk about Althea and her camera tomorrow night. Lise Morgan is finding a way to reach her. What's up, Hippo? Thanks so much for being here. Epic Vids, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Also to Super Chatters, appreciate you guys keeping the chat lively, fresh, offering a different perspective. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Eric C. What's up, Eric C.? All right, probably missed a few shout-outs. I will catch everybody tomorrow night. This chat has been about 50 minutes, a little longer than a normal reaction video. We'll save some of the topics, and I'll hit you all tomorrow night. Peace.